oh, I gotta give my EVA soothe bell so that it becomes happier and it evolves into an Espeon.
That is very cool of them.
Okay. Game is saved. Turning off, plugging in, switch.
You're literally the bravest.
I'm literally so brave.
You can play Pokemon while we have the interview if you can focus while you do
I don't
that.
know if I can. I'll try without. I'll be so brave.
You're the bravest. Because I think you were playing Pokemon in the last one.
I might have. I don't remember. I probably at least was starting to play it.
I think that was like when like the game first came out, like the new one.
Oh, maybe it was. Oh yeah, I think it was.
Because this was like right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because it came out around then.
Yeah, so it was the new one.
Um, I don't remember where I started.
You were
Uh,
talking about how you realized you were autistic and then what it was like to like come to terms with that.
okay, yeah. I think I explained in the last interview just like the general feeling of knowing something is like different about me, but not knowing what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and like basically, eventually, I met other autistic people who knew they were autistic. Um, or some of my friends who I had for a while also figured it out. And my friend Caden, like I met him and he
He
was
is
like,
very
yeah,
autistic.
he's like, yeah, I have autism. I was like, oh, okay. Um, yeah, that's like that's fine, whatever. And I met his roommate. His roommate's like, yeah, I have autism too. And I was like, oh, cool. More friends, more of them. And then both of them kept like referring to me as another autistic person, like offhand or like as a joke. And I was like, wait, are you implying that I'm autistic? And they kind of like giggled and I was like, oh, I guess it's a joke. Which is really ironic considering that I have autism and I just didn't understand it. They were trying to tell me that I
No,
also
I feel like they should have been up front with it because that's something you should tell them straight up. But also, like, I get why they were like making a joke.
eventually they did. Caden was like, you have autism. And I was like, oh, I guess maybe I do. Um but for a while I joked, I was like, oh, I'm like Schrodinger's autistic, where I'm only autistic if my friends say I am. And if they don't, then who knows? Um, but eventually I was hanging out with Kaden and some other friends who are autistic, and we were talking about it. And he was talking about, he's like, if you just had ADHD, you wouldn't have all these sensory issues. And I was like, oh, I guess I have autism. And like, I remember like, he was so excited that I finally just like said it and accepted it. And genuinely, it has explained a lot of things that I've struggled with. Um, like it explains why I'm like quote unquote weird or odd in social situations, but it also explains some things that I get anxious about, um, like certain like schedules and like not being able to read tone or know what people are saying. Um, and yeah, I remember kind of trying to explain it to my therapist, um, and she told me like, um, or I don't remember if I told her or she told me, but she basically said like, even if I'm not autistic, I relate to all these things, and I can use these skills that autistic people share with each other to like cope with these things, and I can find community in these kinds of people. And so even if like one day I tried to get a diagnosis and they're like, no, you don't have autism, you're just weird, or you just have anxiety, or just ADHD, then I like, cool, but I still relate to these things and that's okay. And like, I think that's like part of why I don't really care about getting the actual diagnosis
It's
because
literally just a piece of paper, and it's like so expensive. It's
it's so expensive.
why is it so much money? Like, just tell me, just maybe take a test or something. Like,
Yeah.
those online quizzes, they should just have you fill out one of those and then send you your results, and that should be enough.
Yeah.
They have to have like one test for everybody.
I saw a TikTok that was like, you should immediately get diagnosed with autism if you go to take one of the online autism tests and you keep asking for clarification on every question.
Yeah.
Because that happened to me. Sorry, the smoke alarm's going off, but it's fine. It just does that in our kitchen. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like before I knew what like autistic really meant and the kind of scale to which autism, like you can be autistic in so many different ways without like being the sort of stereotypical, like I feel like the stereotypical autistic kid is like a young boy who needs a lot of help, um like doing certain tasks and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people don't consider autism because they have a very specific idea of what it is and don't realize that autistic kids can be functioning on their own or like can seem functioning because they've learned how to do it. But
And honestly, like people use like the terms like high and low functioning. It's honestly some people are just better at things than others.
yeah,
Like the things that I'm good at, like even if they're not genuine, like even if I'm masking to do them, if I have that skill, I'm good at it. If I don't, I don't. Like
yeah.
it's
I
not
think
going to affect my ability to do things.
I think people also think autistic kids have to be like really good with like numbers or math or
Oh,
like
I can't fucking do math. Don't even get me
like I
started.
feel like people know kids as like the kind of people who can recite pi or like do really complicated math in their head, and I'm like, no, but I can do other cool stuff.
You do know a lot of cool things.
Yeah. Um.
I
So yeah.
think like
Once I like, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
you're good. I forget where I was going. You
That's
go.
okay. But yeah, once I like, before I figured out that autism was even an option, it was definitely scary because like I could only really go to like regular therapists, and a lot of the time I was going to like therapists through my school who like don't necessarily have specialized care. They're just general social workers. Um, and they would just treat me for anxiety, which helped a little bit, but there was always kind of this feeling of like I'm not getting no like I've been so good at just pretending to be fine and like pretending to be like good socially and pretending to be okay with like where I am in life and like almost not realizing things that I'm struggling with because I'm so used to pretending I'm not, that like I didn't ask for anything else. I was just like, well, I guess it's anxiety. I guess that's it. And then it was like, no, there's more to it. And yeah,
It's
so it
allowed
was,
to be more complex than originally thought.
yeah. And I think it was scary at first, just having this feeling of knowing like there's something wrong with me that no one can like, that only I can tell is there.
Yeah, it's good to know that there are other people who can see it.
Yeah. And I think like for me, the like, no, no, okay, I don't want to ramble too much. I
You're
think,
allowed to ramble. It's okay.
but
He's
I was gonna say,
encouraged.
for me, like, I think the other thing is that like the only really negative effects have been like um because of the way people treat me or like social, where I'm not doing anything wrong. I just don't understand how to socialize normally.
Do me a favor, babe. Just move your camera a little bit because it's going dark. There you go. Now we can see you. Hi. Sorry, continue.
Um yeah, that I mean that was it. Just most of my autistic traits I enjoy and I think are great, but
You
it's
are a
always
funky little guy. It's very fun.
I am just a funky little guy.
The last question I have is what is something you think more people should know or understand about autistic people?
Oh, there's probably a lot. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to think of all of it.
Well,
Um,
just tell me what you think of right now.
First thing I was literally just thinking about it is I think people assume that all autistic people are just like childlike. and like yeah, I talk like a kid sometimes. I definitely like my favorites, like my big special interest is Pokemon, which is a game for children. Um, but I also know autistic people whose special interest is like sex and like sex work or like drag queens and drag culture.
Yesterday, my dad info dumped to me about a dam that was going to be built at the Delaware Water Gap.
Exactly.
I just opened up the car door and he's like, I gotta tell you about this dam that was never built. I'm like, if it
Yeah.
wasn't built, why do you care? Why do I have to learn about it?
Yeah, like and like I have so many autistic friends who are like, yeah, sex is like my favorite stim. And we say it as a joke, but like
It's
genuinely
good sim.
genuinely like yeah. Um
If it's not for stimming, why it feel good? I'm
no,
just saying.
no, literally. Um but yeah, everyone just kind of assumes we're just like I think people also get autism confused with like Down syndrome or other developmental disorders that are more like prevalent to like outside or well yeah, I don't know. They're more like about having like specific developmental
There's
problems.
specific things that are like pretty much everyone with Down syndrome has a certain group of characteristics. With autism, it's more like
It's
you
more
can
of a
have all of
range.
any different combination of traits and it
Yeah.
doesn't look the same. Where like with other like and also it's a neurological disorder, not a developmental disorder. Developmental disorders in fact like your the way your brain develops, so like it's harder to
Exactly.
learn and like harder to like pick up new skills and stuff. Where with
Mhm.
autism you're still able to develop those skills, you just learn them a different way. So even though like being autistic in a society that's meant to teach neurotypical children, like for example, in public school, yeah, being autistic is definitely a disability. But like, I mean, if I'm like doing a task at work, if my boss just tells me what things are and I can ask clarification, I'm fine. Or
Yeah.
like it's not really like an issue in the real world as long as people are
Yeah.
like not assholes about it.
Yeah, I think people assume that autism is always very visible and that you can always tell who has autism, and it's
I
just not.
literally didn't even know you had autism until you told me.
To be fair, I didn't until I told you, but like
Well, you gotta figure it out to tell me. You gotta at least know it for a little bit longer.
yeah, because I definitely am like I mask very hard when I am like have to or when I don't like
Yeah.
I my instinct is masking before unmasking.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like yeah, I've had friends who I was like, "Wait, you're autistic?" And then they start getting more comfortable around me and
And you're
I'm like,
like,
"Oh,
oh,
you were masking very well." Like oh, my father is texting me. Give me a moment.
hi, Craig.
Uh almost dinner time.
Oh my god, dinner time.
Um, yeah, there was something else. I think this is something I wish people understood about neurodiversity in general, but like it's not that something's wrong with us. We just our brains work differently than what is considered the norm. And if more people made room for like brains and ways of thinking and like people who just aren't the norm, then it wouldn't seem like such a weird, scary thing to be autistic. Like if people were just more forward and more honest and more gentle, I think life would be so much easier for autistic people. But it's just like genuine. Like, if people were just nicer to me or more understanding, and the people who were are the people I remember fondly, even if I wasn't like. There's a girl I remember from like when I was in middle school who I was like kind of friends with, but we were never super close. But I remember just like feeling really strongly about our friendship because she was just kind to me when other people weren't. Um, and I wish more people understood that.
I definitely feel the same way. There's there's a girl I went to high school with. I met her around the same time I met Jin, and it was like I think like the same week or whatever. And I had like the friends I had came with had left me there, and I was like freaking the hell out because I was by myself and alone and scared. And she literally sat with me until my parents came. And
Oh,
like I have not spoken to her in like 7 years. But if she texted me and asked me to hang out, I'd still be like, yeah, like when and where, who's driving, you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, even just like I think yeah, the gentleness and patience. I wish more people were able like even for people who don't have autism. I think
Just
that's the
be
other
nice.
I think that's the other thing is people assume that like once people hear you have autism, it's like, oh well now I'm going to be nice to you. It's like, why can't you just be nice? Who cares?
Yeah, like it shouldn't matter. Like I understand it being an issue if like there's an issue with communication or like, I'm like info dumping a little too much and you want to, talk about something else. Like if there's an issue where my autism is causing the issue, I understand bringing it up, but you shouldn't have to know that unless it's like
Hmm.
pertaining to the specific situation, you know?
Yeah, learning that I have autism shouldn't change the way you treat me. You should be kind and understanding and also be able to be mature and have a good time and not baby me.
No, literally, why do people treat autistic adults like children?
Yeah, like I I literally smoke weed and drink alcohol and have sex and
You're
pay
literally like
for work
21,
and like I do adult things, please.
literally. You're a
Please.
whole adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wish people didn't like relating to the other thing I said. I wish people didn't think people with autism don't want to be autistic. In fact, I wish more people were autistic because I think that we just is so developed for a neurotypical brain. I think we can understand the nuances of things that other people might not see.
We do be seeing like between the lines for things. Like, I feel like I don't know a lot of like the rules and stuff, like the unwritten rules, but there have been so many times where I would change someone's entire worldview because they'll be like, don't do that. And I'll be like, why? And then they'll just like break because they've never thought about it before.
Yeah,
Or like,
autistic
I
people
have so
question
much
the
more
rules
critical thinking
often.
skills than everyone around
Yeah,
me. And it frustrates me because it's like,
yeah,
why don't y'all actually think about this for yourselves? Maybe you could be happier if you made your own choices.
yeah. Autistic people question the norms way more often, and
Yeah.
the amount of times, like, I think when I was younger, I didn't understand why I had to say excuse me after I burped. And like, I think a
It's
lot
really
of
cute.
autistic people are like, wait, I don't understand. And like, eventually I learned, like, oh, it's just a matter of
It's just
politeness.
like a nice thing to do. It's not like you're not like it's
Right.
not the end of the world. It's just like it's kind of
Yeah.
nice.
But
It's
then,
like
like,
holding the door open or saying thank you, you know?
exactly. But then, like, there's other things where it's like, why do we do this? Like, the amount of times people have asked me for relationship advice, and I'm just like, I don't understand why you're still dating this person. And they're like, huh? It's like it's almost like you guys make everything too complicated.
I definitely feel that when it comes to like polyamory because almost every person that I've been in like a good polyamorous relationship with has been autistic because like there's more open communication and also like people who it's okay.
All right, I
You're
remembered another thing, but you can finish.
yeah. It's okay. Shit, where was like, oh yeah. Autism and polyamory. I feel like a lot of like the things that people consider cheating are like just things that we're told we have to be insecure about. Like
Yeah.
like when I found out some people considered watching like your partner watching porn as cheating, I'm like, what?
Or like people think
Or like
like
following like people of the gender you're attracted to on Instagram or something like that. Like
or even just like thinking someone else is attractive.
no, like literally, like I think you're hot, but I also think other people are hot. That doesn't make me a criminal.
It's really hard to be only attracted to one person at a time. That's ridiculous.
And also I feel like you can't expect one person to do everything. And people try so hard to make that one person do everything, where it's like I can see that all of my partners have inherent value, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
And a lot of non-autistic people don't really like understand that.
Yeah. The thing I was gonna say is I also wish people didn't think like this is kind of relating to something else I said, but I feel like everyone thinks every autistic person is like aromantic and asexual.
Yeah,
Like we like don't experience love or romance, and it's like, well, I do. It's just way different from the way you do.
I think it's really funny because I actually am a romantic, and I think when I described it to you, you're like, "That just sounds like being autistic," and I'm like, "No, it like I see why you see that. I
There's
see why you think
definitely
that, but like, you know,
there's definitely an overlap. I
there's
won't
definitely an
deny
overlap, but like, I think it's actually really funny because I like all the other aromantic people I know were likely not autistic, and it's like, it's strange because there is a lot of overlap. I feel like.
that. Yeah.
But no, definitely with the asexual thing, the people literally think that autistic people don't have sex when like our sex is usually better.
No,
Like,
literally.
why don't you communicate with your partner? Why don't you tell them if something is not comfortable?
Yeah.
Like, you telling me like someone will do something that they're not comfortable with and just like not mention it?
That's so strange.
It's so bizarre. Like, just tell your partner to do something else, and they probably will because they like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
All right. Do you have any more questions? I do have to go.
I'm done with all my questions. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before you go? Because I know you said you had like a lot of different thoughts going on. Want to make sure you had
I
time to
think
talk about everything you want to.
I think I got them all out. Um,
Okay.
yeah, the only other thought is I think people also forget that autism is comorbid with a lot of other disabilities, including physical disabilities, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, depression. So I
Can you
think
just explain
people,
what comorbid means? Is that like
oh, it means if you have autism,
you're more
you're
likely to have the other
more likely
things?
to have other things.
Okay.
Like you're more likely to have both ADHD and autism than to just have autism.
Yeah.
Um, and like things like OCD, also, I know a lot of autistic people with OCD, um, and BPD and bipolar. And so I think people also assume that autistic people have no depth and they just are emotionless and have no empathy and are can be
Most of the
bitchy.
time we have more.
Sometimes, yeah, I'm like hyper empathetic. If I
Dude,
walk into a
my
room of sad
emotions are
people,
so
I'm
big.
sad.
Like
Yeah,
they're too big for my body. I'm just a
yeah,
little guy and they're big, you know?
exactly.
I can tell you're anxious and want to go eat dinner. I'm gonna let you go.
Sorry, I'm not trying to rush you.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure I give you time to talk about everything, but I'll
No, that
wrap
was
up
good.
here. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy your dinner. Bye.
Bye, bestie.